Welcome to the Boots on the Ground podcast, the podcast where we explore how ERP transforms operations, streamlines production, and delivers real results in manufacturing. Whether you're running a plant, leading IT, or just trying to make sense of digital transformation, this is where tech meets torque. Let's get into it. Manufacturing leaders are surrounded by data, but most of them still struggle to answer basic questions in real time. What is actually happening on the shop floor right now? Where are we losing margin? What problems are about to hit us before they show up in the financials? Manufacturers do not have a data problem. They have a decision problem. Data exists everywhere, but it's rarely organized in a way that supports fast operational decisions. And that's why we hired Vikh. Vikh, welcome to the show.
Thanks, David. Pleasure to be part of this podcast.
Great. Glad you could make it. So, Vikh, you've seen CSI analytics from almost every angle, from builder to implementer and seller. Where did this journey actually begin for you?
Where did this journey actually begin? Probably, let me put it this way. I want to start by saying it's summed up with like three key decisions that shaped the way I think about data and business. The first was, David, leaving a very comfortable role at JP Morgan Chase Private Wealth Management data team, headquartered in New York, to join this very tiny, young, early stage startup called Burst in San Francisco at 153 Kearny Street, which was backed by Sequoia Capital, where Doug Leone, one of the legendary investors in Silicon Valley, behind several billion-dollar Silicon Valley companies, was a partner. So back then when I joined Burst, David, cloud, data, analytics was still an idea more than a movement. So that was the first decision. There was only 4 of us in the enterprise professional services. There was only one enterprise customer who was about to leave. And then we took it from there. We got more enterprise customers. We scaled the company, and Info acquired us later on. The second was stepping away from enterprise professional services and moving into pre-sales team, David, where it shifted. It was a subtle shift because now I was moving from building data systems to helping leaders understand how data could actually drive decisions. And the third decision was leaving pre-sales after doing 250 plus demos to join the product team here at SolutionsX, where the mission became much, much bigger, helping organizations think about data, not just as reports or dashboards, but as a product itself to have a decision advantage. And David, over time, right, I've accumulated, more than 20,000 billable hours of work. But the real insight is that gave me the opportunity to sit right next to CFOs, planners, leaders, be it in the operations space, sales area, trying to answer a very simple question. Vikh, how do we make better decision using the information already in the system, right? Most people see data as probably rows, columns sitting in a database, or characters, numbers, zeros and ones. But I don't know why. From the beginning, I always saw it differently. For me, data is actually the digital memory of a business, because every order placed, David, right now, every order is going to be placed. Every shipments are being made. Every pricing change that takes place, every customer interactions that are happening inside Cloud Suite Industrial is leaving a footprint. And over time, those footprint becomes patterns. And those patterns tell a real story of how a business operates. So data by itself doesn't create value. Value happens when people trust it, understand it, act on a daily basis. And that's when analytics comes in. It acts as the bridge between data and high quality decisions. So most importantly, what I strongly believe through this entire journey of mine is our job is to reduce that decision latency, which is the distance between data, raw data, and where intelligent high quality actions are taken using that data. So in manufacturing, the difference between a good quarter and a bad one often comes down to how quickly leaders, frontline employees see a problem and respond to it. So That's exactly what we are trying to solve here at SolutionsX. We are building AnalytX to turn that digital memory of CSI manufacturing business into near real-time operational intelligence. So leaders can finally answer the question they struggle every day. Vikh, what's happening on the shop floor right now? Where are we losing margin? What problems are coming in even before they show up in financials? Because manufacturers don't need more data. They need faster, cleaner decisions. So kind of summed up
Yeah.
my journey there, and through that kind of unpacked what is data and what I believe is the potential of data as well. David, I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, it was very helpful, Vic. Thanks for sharing that.
Mhm.
As you shared your journey there, it became apparent that at some point you realized that something wasn't working the way that it should.
Mhm.
Do you remember what that point was, and what did it feel like internally for you?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for asking that question. This happened during my phase of my second decision that I took when I moved into the pre-sales world. And when I moved into the pre-sales world, the reason was um, because many sales reps kept telling me, first of all, Vic, info analytics is the hardest thing to sell. So I was like, oh yeah? So I would like to understand that firsthand. We started doing discoveries, demos, conversations with customers across the CSI ecosystem. And interestingly, we had very strong success rates. But there was a moment, David, where, after all the demos, I have a practice of calling back our prospect who became our customer to just check you've purchased our analytics system. Um, what decisions are you taking? How is your revenue increasing? What costs came down because of using our analytics? And it was shocking to me that they were not using our product at all. Because if you walked into the shop floor, even talk to the planners, right, or supervisors, or even the leadership team, you would still see Excel open everywhere. And when you ask them, tell me one decision that moved the needle by $1 million or $100,000, often the answer was none, or even worse, that it was never implemented in a way that actually helped them or make a decision. That's when a question hit me very hard. Uh, and I still remember that flight back from Ohio. Am I really selling software, or am I selling hope? Because if analytics doesn't actually change how people make decisions day to day, then the business hasn't really transformed. The issue was decision latency, right? Even when companies invested in analytics platform, they had analytics tools, they had data, they had uh, dashboards, tons of dashboards. Many teams still went back to Excel to actually do the work. That moment forced me to think the entire approach, David. That's when I realized the real issue wasn't the lack of analytics tools. Companies had information, but it wasn't reaching the right people, making decisions fast enough. Reports existed, dashboards existed, but the time between data and high quality action was just way too long, right? And that realization became the seed of what later became AnalytX, powered by SolutionsX, data as a product for Cloud Suite Industrial.
Gotcha. So we've come a long way, obviously. What do you
Mhm.
think the industry still gets wrong about analytics? And kind of to compound that question a little bit, Vic, why do you think adoption has historically been so difficult in CSI, Cloud
Mhm.
Suite Industrial?
Well, I would say this in a very humble way. At the end of the day, we all know we are all trying to do the best job we can. Um, I strongly believe in that. Uh, but based on what I've seen the patterns, I'm a data guy. I just like to analyze every single thing in a very different way and come up with new insights, and connect the unconnected dots. But this became very clear for me. Analytics isn't successful when it is deployed. It's successful when the front line stops opening Excel.
Yeah.
Period.
And sometimes not just the front line, the managers too, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So what changed, Vic? What did you decide to do differently?
So, seeing, so if you think about it, for me, the biggest challenge came in was the Excel existing out there. The planners were still exporting data. The sales team was still building spreadsheets. Managers didn't trust their numbers. And analytics hasn't solved the real problem. So we decided that we need to shift from building a dashboard centric or KPI centric to a decision making system, something which could be like a OS for decision making. And that can only happen if you bring in data from your different data silos of the world. You have your sales, you have your production, you have your inventory, you have your logistics data, you have other non-CSI data. Bring all of that in one single world and show it in such a way that it helps them or enables them to take a decision where they are when they need it. And that kind of changes the way people use it. So I'll give you a classic example, right? A shipping supervisor is responsible for like looking at the next 8 weeks of shipments. To understand that if they can actually ship those orders on time, they have to like cross-reference between customer demand, inventory on hand, supply coming in. Traditionally, that means opening an ERP system, exporting multiple reports, combining the Excels, manually figuring out where the shortage exists. And this process typically takes about 4 to 8 hours, sometimes even 2 days. Most companies do it 2 times every week across departments, right? Just think about it. But with our approach,
Sure.
what we have designed from a design perspective, you have a net demand gap, actionable insight already available. The same analysis takes about 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds. And this is the real scenario, what our customers, as we speak right now, they would be doing this as we speak and doing it in less than 30 seconds. So we suddenly shifted the question, David, if you think about it, from do we have the data to what decision should we take next, right? That saves hundreds of thousands of dollars by avoiding, in that one use case, we avoided expedited freight charges, we avoided late penalties, we improved on-time delivery,
Sure.
we had customer retention, kind of like that future proofing of your revenue. That's real ROI. And David, let me be very clear, right? When I started doing demos for CSI customers, one thing fascinated me
Yeah,
about
sure
CSI
is.
ecosystem was the diversity of the manufacturers it supports, right? So CSI has companies that produce a 50-cent component, like a fastener or a hanger or a clip at massive scale, to others building a
Sure.
$50,000 engineered machines, which could be engineered to order, right? But the key metric changes as we change the model. In commodity manufacturing, David, the game could be scrap rate. In repetitive manufacturing, the game could be production efficiency. In assembly manufacturing, it could be inventory turns. In configure to order, it could be supply chain lead time. And in engineer to order, the business runs on order backlog. So what's interesting
Right.
is that CSI supports all of these manufacturing model, but each of them require a complete different decision. And that's why analytics has to adapt the way the business actually operates, right? So in to sum up, in CSI, adoption has been hard because each manufacturing model has its own critical decision. So analytics must adapt, not just go live with hundreds of standard dashboards and 500 metrics and boom, just give it another tool to just go and be non-productive. So I hope that was helpful,
Right.
David.
Yeah, very helpful. And I think, we've got an exciting announcement from Infor very recently that's, they're introducing some more out of the box
Mm-hmm.
content for the Burst Analytics platform.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point here, Vic, it's fairly broad. It
Mm-hmm.
covers a lot of information, but very little of it is so pointed. Sorry for the mic there. Very little of it is so pointed to a specific industry, and that's where
Mm-hmm.
I think you're working hard on analytics to make that happen. So, but with AI exploding right now, Vic, why does analytics still matter? I can just ask ChatGPT, right?
I know, and that's the beauty, right, David? Think about it. AI is super powerful, right? But AI without trusted operational data, it will just scale confusion faster. And this becomes very clear in manufacturing, right? Think about this. Business traditionally, from the good old days, business is always profit is equal to revenue minus cost. And in many companies, the system tells you the cost variance at the end of the month, you know, but it doesn't tell you what actually cost it. So finance leaders normally see material variance, labor variance, machine overhead variance. But the real drivers, scrap, downtime, supplier price shifts, are buried in the data. So what business really need is to understand why what cost changed today, not 30 days later, and be able to see that in a very, like, our human eye is trained in a certain way. That's where analytics becomes the foundation before the AI. AI doesn't remove the need for analytics, David. It actually increases it. But the sequence matters very clearly. First, you need to have clear operational data. Then you need to have usable analytics that drives behavioral trust. Behavioral trust is the key word in the frontline users' leaderships. Then AI, because AI doesn't fix broken data, it multiplies it, right? I typically ask
Sure.
our customers, right? Are you a data native company or not? And if you don't have analytics, means you don't have trust, means you don't have T in that native, which means you're a data naive company. So that's just my way of sharing my experience, David. But hey, the journey is going to be
Yeah.
phenomenal with the AI and analytics together.
It is, yeah, and I love the point that you made there, Vic, about AI is going to be part of it, but it has to come after the analytics. One of the things that I've noticed very much is that it can help to find the patterns once you have built up the relationships to the data. I
Mm-hmm.
think you had mentioned early in your, maybe even in your hello statement for us, that it really had to do with the
Mm-hmm.
journey and the patterns that are created in that. And so you build the right data system underneath with the relationships correctly, those patterns can start to be seen. And AI doesn't do that for you. You have to do that, right? So that's where the analytics piece comes
Spot
in.
on.
And you've done a great job for it so far. So keeping us moving. I got three more questions here, I think, before the big one. So you've had some moments where standing up for what you believed, and you're obviously very passionate, Vic, right? But you've had some moments where standing up for what you believed wasn't easy. So what drives you to keep going?
Yeah. David, at some point, every professional faces a moment where they decide whether comfort matters more than truth. And for me, seeing our customers struggle with analytics adoption made that choice very clear. If analytics is supposed to empower business, it has to work for the people running the business every day. What drives me, David, is turning raw data into a product, something people actually use every day, not just once a week, not just once a month. Because when it becomes the operating system, as I said earlier, OS of daily decisions, especially high quality decisions, that's when you know it's truly working, right? This is one
Sure.
of our customers saying, actually, and I'll quote the when the quote comes, right. So we delivered, we were testing our theses. Yes, we believe in this, but can we really take this product there, right? And when I asked, what do you think about, what is the feedback you want to give? And this is the president at Steiberg, called Jim Stachowiak. I hope I got his name right, Stachowiak. He quoted, Vikh, AnalytX X is the most used tool by our business on a daily basis. And that was like, wow. It was the most rewarding moment for me, in a way. Uh,
Yeah, that's a big
and,
thing.
and David, let me ask you, what's the most used tool you use on a daily basis? It should be your phone.
Yeah, my phone is definitely mine. Yeah, or some sort of communication device. Yeah, whether it's a phone or a Teams meeting or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very good point. It could be even your Teams meeting, right, where we can have the whole team together use it the most. So the point I'm trying to make is it is the most used tool, not a nice tool, not a side tool, right? You know what, David? Analytics X becoming the most used tool, as Jim said, didn't happen by accident. The real story starts with why I chose to join SolutionsX in first place. I mean, think about it. In Cloud Suite Industrial, SolutionsX has a reputation of one thing: getting customers live successfully. That's gold standard. And when it comes to the leadership team here, David, you yourself, Brian Miller, Chris Arthur, all are like ambitious, courageous, authentic, and deeply focused on true customer success. And just as important the leadership team here is also the consultants that we have here who've been super helpful. The quality of consultants is true North Star. Their depth in the real world knowledge, their hands-on experience in the trenches have been like just gold mine for us, right? So the reason I bring that is, yes, today Jim Stachowiak is, the president, the executive at Steiber, is saying analytics is the widely used tool, or I should say, most used tool by their business. But at its core, it is not just a product. It's a collection of high quality consultants, true experience that they share, battle tested, the courage of the leadership team, customer obsession of the entire SolutionsX team. That's what we want to bring to the table.
Got it. That was a long answer for that, but a great one too, and great story, Vic. It was awesome. Yeah, that's an awesome response you got from the customer there. Great quotes, and the fact that they're using it daily is fantastic. So Vic, if a CSI customer is listening right now and they're struggling with analytics adoption, what would you tell them?
Well, you're not alone in the data journey. Solving for your X adoption in analytics AnalytX is what we have built. And if I have one thing I hope companies take away, it's this: manufacturing companies don't win because they have more data. Most companies already have more of those, right? And in fact, they have more dashboards, more metrics. The companies that win are the ones that can decide and act faster, smarter every single day using the data they already have. And if analytics can help organizations do that, then it becomes something much more powerful than reporting. It becomes a decision advantage for our cloud suite industrial customers.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. And Vic, we're just about out of time, but I'm really glad you joined us today. And I'm excited to start talking about, maybe the next time we get together, we can surface for our customers or listeners how we're going to be bringing that data that they need to make those decisions into their workspace directly where they need that data. So don't have time to talk about that today. It's exciting stuff that's right around the corner. I'm very excited about that. So Vic, one parting thought, other than, the last one that I said, the CSI customer listening, what's the one last thing you'd like to say to our listeners today?
Well, I think I've said the most important thing. If you want data to be powerful, it has to be in the hands of the frontline employees, and every single decisions that a company makes, be it 200 employee, 400 employee, they should be using data for that, which is tailored for them to make a high quality decision. So analytics isn't successful when you have hundreds of dashboards of 100 of metrics. It's successful only when your frontline employees and your leadership team and everybody in between makes that, uses the tool on a daily basis to make a high quality decision. That's it. That's the key. That's what at least I've learned with 19 years of experience.
Yeah. Perfect. Vic, thank you so much for taking time to spend with us today. Really do appreciate it. Appreciate everything you're doing on the analytics package for SolutionsX and our customers and customers in the Cloud Suite industrial ecosystem, not just ours, right? All boats rise with the tide. We really appreciate you sharing your journey with us today. And
thanks for giving me the opportunity, David, to be in this platform. Have a good one. Cheers.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. Welcome. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in. If you've got questions or want to set up a free 30-minute consultation, visit our website or send us an email. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the latest ERP insights.